and thanks for coming. I'm a resident nurse in psychiatric floor, and I've been working for psychiatric floor for 4 years, and I enjoyed it in the beginning, but lately I've been suffered from patients like every time like sexual harassment and verbally abusive patients, and cussing my staffs and myself and to the doctors. And these days I feel like I don't want to go to work. It's too much. And I've been thinking I want to move my job to a different floor, or if you have any wisdom to share that, if I can overcome. I started my job to help people, but I feel like it's sometimes too much for myself. So I often think like quitting my nursing job, but also I feel like I need to be there for people. So I just want to ask your advice, what I can do for myself.
네. 남을 돕는다라고 말할 때 그 사람이 필요한 것을 도와주는 게 돕는 겁니까? 내가 돕고 싶은 것을 돕는 게 돕는 겁니까?
So when you say you help somebody, help somebody else, is it helping? Is it doing what they want you to do, what they ask you to do? Is that helping, or doing what you want them to do, what you want to do for them? Is that helping?
I want to help what they need,
Wonder what?
like what they need in the health wise or mental wise, their support.
자기가 간호사로서 환자들을 돕는다고 말을 했기 때문에 돕는다는 말이 그들이 필요한 것을 주는 것이 돕는 거냐, 아니면 내가 보고 이건 도와야 되겠다 하는 것을 주는 것이 돕는 거냐는 것을 내가 한번 물어본 겁니다.
So because you mentioned you wanted to help your patients, help people, wanted to kind of nail down what we mean by help in this context. It's doing what your patients asking you to do? Is that helping, or is doing what you think is best for the patient? Is that helping?
I feel like it depends on the situation. It's really very difficult question. Sometimes what they need is I cannot provide.
그러니까 자기가 할 역할을 제가 볼 때는 정확하게 잡고 있지 못한 것 같습니다.
So I think you need to kind of affirm precisely what your role is here.
제가 학교 선생님을 한번 상담했는데요.
So I actually talked to a teacher once.
청소년들이 많이 방황한다고 선생님들이 청소년들을 위해서 상담소를 냈습니다.
So they created this consultancy, basically, or in-school consultancy, in order to, consult and talk to students who were either in trouble or kind of, lost.
이건 조금 오래된 얘기인데요. 한국에서 전국 교직원 연합이라고 하는 교원 노조 단체를 만들어서 민주화에 참여했는데 정부에서 그 사람들을 다 학교에서 잘라버렸어요. 그래서 교직을 잃은 사람들이 학교를 못 가니까 그런 상담소를 만들어서 청소년들, 즉 학생들을 학교 밖에서 상담을 해주기 위해서 마련한 것입니다.
This is a couple of years ago, but basically what happened is during democracy movement, there was a national union of teachers, National Teachers Federation in Korea, who participated actively in the democratic movement. As a result, and in reaction, the government actually fired those teachers who were part of that union. So those teachers got together outside of school because they were no longer hired by the school, and created this kind of consultancy, or this group who would actually consult with students who seemed to be lost.
저도 그들의 생각에 동의를 했기 때문에 그 상담소를 여는 데 가서 개원식에도 참여하고 격려도 해 주었습니다.
And since I agreed with the general principles of that effort, I went to the opening, I helped them I spoke at the opening as well.
근데 한 6개월 정도 지나서 그 상담소를 책임 맡고 있는 선생님이 더 이상 상담소를 운영을 못 하겠다고 했습니다.
But after 6 months of running this kind of consultancy basically, the person in charge of it came to me and said he could no longer continue.
상담소를 운영하기가 너무너무 어렵다고 말했습니다.
And it was really, really difficult to continue.
그래서 재정적인 어려움인가가 물었더니 아니라고 했습니다.
So I said, is it a matter of financing? And he said, no.
뭐 때문에 그러냐?
So I said, well, why is it so difficult?
아이들 때문에 그렇다.
He said, because of the kids.
아이들이 어떻게 하는데?
네?
아이들이 어떻게 하는데 어려운지.
I said, what's their kids doing? What are the kids doing?
애들이 이렇게 학생들에게 필요한 상담을 안 하고 엉뚱 상담을 한다는 거예요.
And they say,
아니 학생이 상담 전화를
네네.
해서 우리가 볼 때 학생들에게 필요한 상담을 요청하는 게 아니고 엉뚱 짓을 한다 이런 얘기.
so the students are calling up these centers, right? And posing problems that, according to the teachers, from teachers' perspective, have nothing to do with the welfare of the students. They're actually asking random questions.
그래서 어떤 엉뚱 짓을 하느냐고 물었습니다.
So I asked, what kind of random questions?
그 말하기 어렵다는 거.
They said, they're really difficult to say.
그래도 말해보라고.
I said, but please go ahead. I want to know.
이런 얘기는 스님한테는 못 한다는 거.
I said, it's difficult to tell a monk these, the things that students say.
그래도 말을 해야 내가 도와줄 거 아니냐.
I said, I can only help if you tell me.
그러니까 그가 겨우 말을 꺼냈습니다.
So
그녀가 여자
reluctantly,
선생님인데.
and this was a woman, she reluctantly actually started talking about what the students asked.
그러니까 자기가 생각할 때는 학생들이 전화를 해서 친구 관계나 학교 수업 문제나 이런 걸 상담하리라고 생각을 했는데
The current founding assumption was that students would call up and ask about academics, about being bullied in schools, and what's happening in school, basically.
근데 전화를 해서는 도저히 들을 수 없는 얘기를 한다는 거예요.
But she said, then they call up and they talk about stuff that I can barely hear. I can barely listening to.
자꾸 돌리지 말고 그냥 바로 직설적으로 얘기를 해라.
So I asked her, please tell me directly, what is it they ask?
그러니까 따르릉 해가 전화를 딱 받으면 애가 선생님 제 성기가 섰습니다 이렇게 말한다는 거예요.
So basically, what they would say, a boy student would actually call up the line, the helpline, to consult with the teacher and say, hey, I have an erection. What can I do?
그러면 야, 네 어느 학교고, 네 몇 학년이야 이렇게 하게 된다는 거예요.
And the teacher would go, hey, which school do you go to? What grade are you in?
그래서 제가 선생님께 얘기했습니다.
So this is what I told the teacher.
일반적으로 선생님께 상담할 수 있는 내용이면 학교 상담소에서 다 할 수가 있다.
If this was a subject matter that students can go to their own teachers and discuss, and then that's what they would do. They actually, talk to their own teachers in school.
학교 상담소에서 도저히 못하는 부분에 아이들이 자기 고민이 있다.
But there are topics that the students have, these young men and women have, that they can't really speak to their own teachers in school.
그래서 이 상담소에는 여러분들의 고민을 다 들어준다는 거니까 자기 고민을 얘기한 거다.
And since you advertise yourself as a place they can come to with any problem, that's what they did.
그들 청소년에게는 성적인 고민이 매우 크기 때문에 그걸 상담한 거다.
And since sexual curiosity is a big part of their young lives, that's what they did. They wanted to consult about what they felt.
그런 상담을 해주겠다고 상담소를 열어놓고 아이들이 가장 필요한 상담을 했는데 그것을 야단을 치거나 못하겠다면 처음부터 잘못 열었다는 거예요.
So you open up engage in this effort to be inclusive of all the problems that young people have, so they can come to you without any judgment. Yet you scold them when they actually come to you with their problems. That's not the right way to go about it.
그러니까 당신들이 아이들의 입장이 되지 못하고 늘 선생의 입장에서만 얘기하는 거다.
So you're looking at this, approaching this as you're still a teacher, not from the shoes of a student.
그러면 스님 같으면 이런 상담을 하면 어떻게 하겠습니까?
So if somebody came to you with that question, what would you do? She asked me.
저 같으면 그래 그것은 네가 정상적으로 성장하고 있다는 증거란다.
Then I would have told her that that's good. That means that you're normal and a healthy boy.
걱정할 거 없다.
There's nothing to worry about.
이렇게 대화를 시작하면 되지 않냐?
That's how I start that conversation.
아이가 먼저 전화를 끊는 것은 그들의 문제이지만은 상담을 해준다는 내가 먼저 기분이 나쁘고 전화를 끊는다면 그건 상담자의 자세가 아니다.
So if he ends the call, that's fine. But if you end the call as the therapist, basically as a teacher who wants to help them, that's not the right way to go about it.
예, 우리는 상대에 대한 이해가 매우 필요합니다.
So we really need an understanding of the other.
상대가 표현하는 것에 선악이라든지 옳고 그름을 논해서는 안 됩니다.
So to somebody who actually needs something, we should not really bring a judgment of good or bad to it.
그는 그것이 필요하거나 그런 고민이 있기 때문에 얘기하는 겁니다.
Because that person is saying these things because that's something that they need or there's some problem they are holding.
그것을 가지고 한다 못한다 하는 것은 올바른 자세가 아닙니다.
You know, to actually address that by saying this is good question or versus bad question, something that you can do, you're allowed to do or not, that's not the right approach.
다만 그들의 요청에 우리가 다 들어줄 수 없습니다.
The only thing is that we can't, you know, agree to do everything they want us to do.
예를 들어서 여러분 중에 여성 중에 저하고 결혼하자 하면 그걸 제가 들어줄 수가 없지 않습니까?
For example, some women ask me to marry her. That's not something that I can accede to.
이것처럼 우리는 많은 사람들의 요구를 다 들어줄 수가 없습니다.
In such a way, we can't satisfy everybody's needs and desires of us.
그럴 때는 정중히 거절을 하면 됩니다.
And at that point, you respectfully decline.
근데 몇 번 거절했는데도 같은 일이 반복된다면
But if you know, once you decline several times, but same thing, same demands are made.
우선 그런 요구를 하는 것은 이해하지만은 이것은 현행법의 추행으로 간주됩니다.
But you know, you can still understand the other person asking you or demanding that need, but if he or she repeats it, then it could go against the current law of harassment.
그러면 그것은 신고를 해서 제재를 가하면 됩니다.
Then you use the existing law on the books to actually, you know, deal with that harassment.
그것처럼 자기의 직분에 대해서 조금 더 간호사가 뭔지 또는 상담 간호사가 뭔지를 조금 더 자각을 하는 게 필요하지 않나 싶습니다.
In that sense, I think this is a good opportunity for you to revalidate, you know, what it really means for you to become this nurse in a psychiatric hospital.
다시 말하면 그들을 돕는다 하는 것은 내가 도와야 된다 하는 관점이 있다면 그것은 욕망이지 돕는 것이 아닙니다.
For example, when you say you are helping them, if that help is a source, is a consequence of your desire to help them, that's desire.
그들의 요청에 응하는 겁니다.
What you have to do, you have to listen to their needs.
그러나 그것을 우리는 다 할 수가 없습니다.
The only caveat is that you can't do everything they're asking you of.
할 수 없는 것에 대해서는 우리가 여러분들이 잘 아는 단어가 있지 않습니까? No thank you.
And you have the right to actually refuse to do that you can't do. You just say no, thank you.
그런 관점에 서야지 직업인이 그 내가 원하지 않는 것을 상대가 요구한다고 해서 직장을 못 다니겠다 하면 일찍 그만두는 게 좋습니다.
Because that's the perspective you should bring to your job. Somebody, a professional nurse like yourself, if you have trouble dealing with what others are asking you of to do, then that's not the right approach.
얘기하세요.
Please, go ahead.
Yes, I had a really similar situation. There's one patient masturbates in front of females all the time, and what I do is just like I close the blanket over him. I just close the door. I just give him privacy, and I feel thank you so much for your answer. And I think yes, I think it's my time for me to choose a different department.
네, 그들이 나쁜 것이 아니라 그들은 그것이 지금 필요한 거예요.
So it's not that they're bad, the patients are bad, it's that that's what they need at that time.
그러나 그것을 내가 해결해 줄 수가 없습니다.
But you can't resolve it for them.
그것은 자리를 피하는 방법이 있고요.
Then you can leave that space.
그것이 어떤 규칙을 어기는 거라면 위에다가 신고를 해야 합니다.
But if their behavior is going against some kind of regulation, then you report that.
그래서 간호사를 남자로 바꾼다든지
Or change the gender of the nurse to deal with such situation.
그렇지 않으면 그 환자를 밖으로 내보낸다든지
Or you can kick the patient out.
그것은 내가 결정할 게 아닙니다.
That's not something you have to decide.
자세한 리포트를 해서 제출하면 병원에서 처리해야 합니다.
You just write detailed reports and let the decision makers in the hospital make that decision.
세상이 우리가 원하는 대로 다 이루어지지 않습니다.
Because the world doesn't work the way we always want it to.
왜 법률을 정해놨는데 법을 어기는 범죄자가 생깁니까?
For example, why do people commit crimes when it goes against the law?
서로 좋아서 만난 부부지간에 왜 싸우고 헤어집니까?
Why do couples fight and separate and get divorced when they came together first in love?
세상에는 온갖 일들이 존재하게 돼 있습니다.
So a lot of things happen in this world.
그들의 문제가 아니라 그런 상황에 내가 어떻게 할 거냐 하는 관점을 가져야 됩니다.
So in that situation, it's not their problem. It's about me. What can I decide facing this situation?
옳다 그러다 맞다 틀렸다 이런 관점에서 접근하지 말았으면 좋겠습니다.
Not judge the situation as right or wrong, good or bad.
이런 일이 일어났는데 나는 어떻게 대응할 것인가?
So this thing happened, this situation happened, this phenomenon happened. What am I going to do about it?
그리고 내가 거기에 도저히 내 가치관이나 성향이나 취향이 맞지 않다면 직업을 바꿀 수밖에 없습니다.
And if my personality, my value system, my worldview, cannot be resolved with that situation, then I have to change my jobs.